Lucius Cornelius Sulla achieved what no Roman general ever had. He conquered the Republic, wielded absolute power, and then he simply walked away. By the late 2nd century BC, the foundation of Rome was splintering. Deep wealth inequality had turned the capital into a theater of mob politics, where rival leaders used the state grain dole as a bribe to secure the loyalty of the urban poor. These internal tensions were compounded by a shift in the military. Recent reforms meant the Roman legions were now recruited from the landless poor, men who looked to their generals for pay and land rather than the abstract Roman state. The survival of the Republic's institutions no longer rested on debate or law. It was now contingent on the restraint of whichever commander held the loyalty of the most professional legions. That restraint vanished in 88 BC. Sulla had been awarded a military command against the eastern Achaean Mithridates, but a populous tribune and an aging general named Marius used street violence to illegally strip Sulla of his position. Sulla was expected to accept his civilian demotion. Instead, he rode south to his 6 veteran legions. He turned them around and marched them directly toward the capital. They breached the Palmarium, the sacred boundary of Rome where weapons were strictly forbidden by ancient law. Sulla justified the move as a rescue mission, claiming he was using his army to free the legitimate Senate from the control of populist tyrants. The success of the march proved that the sacred traditions of the city were effectively hollow when confronted by a disciplined professional army. Sulla's departure for his war in the east allowed Marius and his allies to retake Rome, leading to a brutal cycle of revenge. When Sulla returned to Italy in 83 BC, he came with 5 battle-hardened legions ready for a final reckoning. The civil war ended at the city's northeastern threshold. At the Battle of the Colline Gate, Sulla's veterans crushed the remaining Marian resistance, leaving 50,000 dead outside the walls. To consolidate his victory, Sulla introduced the Proscriptions, public lists posted in the Forum naming individuals who could be legally killed for a reward. These lists acted as an economic purge. Sulla executed over 2,000 elite senators and equestrians, then confiscated their immense wealth to pay off the soldiers who had secured his power. With the opposition dead or silenced, Sulla forced the Senate to appoint him dictator. He revived an ancient emergency office that had been dormant for a century, but he stripped away the traditional 6-month time limit. Sulla had effectively conquered the Republic, establishing a personal authority and a level of systematic violence that the Roman system had never seen. Having used total tyranny to dismantle the state, Sulla immediately began the work of meticulously rebuilding it. He planned to use his absolute power to restore the traditional aristocratic republic. He doubled the Senate from 300 to 600 members, packing these seats with loyalists. Next, he neutered the tribunes, stripping their ability to propose laws. Finally, he formalized the political ladder, instituting strict age requirements and locked gates between offices. To prevent another general from following his example, Sulla even passed strict treason laws that explicitly forbade commanders from marching their armies out of their assigned provinces. Sulla had used his own illegality to close every institutional loophole he could find, attempting to legislate away the very tactics he had used to take control. In 79 BC, Lucius Cornelius Sulla simply walked away. He resigned his absolute power and retired to the countryside, convinced that he had repaired the machinery of the state. His hyper-legal constitution collapsed almost immediately afterward. Within 10 years of his death, his own former lieutenants, Pompey and Crassus, dismantled nearly every one of his conservative reforms. The effort failed because Sulla's reforms relied on constitutional adherence, but his own career had already proved that a general with a loyal army did not need to follow the rules. Future commanders like Julius Caesar and Augustus would ignore Sulla's laws, but they would perfect his methods: the military march, the systematic purges, and the facade of temporary authority. By attempting to save the Republic through military force, Sulla had instead provided the blueprint for its permanent destruction.